The list of teams that Bradley Beal is willing to waive his no-trade clause for has been revealed. Would any of them have interest in acquiring the star guard from the Phoenix Suns? Plus, a big blow to the Dallas Mavericks could have major ramifications on the Western Conference playoff race. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. All right, let's get into it. Unfortunate news for the Dallas Mavericks. Kyrie Irving has a bulging disc in his back, according to Shams Charania. He's expected to miss at least 1 to 2 weeks. There's optimism that treatment over the coming days will provide a return to play target date. So at least 1 to 2 weeks. They got to see how the treatment works on Kyrie on his back and how he responds, and then go from there. So it's not a guarantee that he's back. Mavs fans that are looking at, a week down the line on the schedule, no guarantees coming back at that point. No guarantee he's back in 2 weeks. It's at least 1 to 2 weeks. And the Mavs, if you look at what's happened in the Western Conference right now, the Mavs without now both of their stars, both Luka dealing with a calf injury and now Kyrie out, the Mavs have dropped to the 6th seed in the Western Conference, and they are in danger of falling lower. They are on a 4-game losing streak right now because it is, well, let's face it, any team would really struggle if they lose their top 2 players. That's exactly what's happened to the Dallas Mavericks, but it's particularly damaging to them because they need Luka, they need Kyrie as the engines to get everyone else going. Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, these guys aren't going to throw themselves lobs. You need somebody to throw those. You need somebody to get guys like that going. You need somebody to get PJ Washington decent looks. That's the way it runs in Dallas. And so you need guys that are going to draw the attention of the defense. They're going to kick out to Klay Thompson, who's going to hit it open 3. Klay's not going to create those by himself. So now it's going to fall on Spencer Dinwiddie for the time being to try to keep the Mavs afloat. He is certainly capable of having some heater performances, but that is a big burden to fill in, not for just Kyrie, but Luka out as well with the Mavs. Again, 4-game losing streak, and the Western Conference playoff race expected to be tight all the way through, with the exception of the Oklahoma City Thunder, who've said, no, we're just going to run away with this thing. We're good. 7-game lead for the 1 seed in the West, just under halfway through the season. The Thunder are cruising, but 2 through 10 in the West, very much up for grabs. And who knows where the Dallas Mavericks will be sitting by the time the dust settles and they finally get both Luka and Kyrie back. So unfortunate injury news. It feels like we've had a lot of it in the NBA world this season, a lot of unfortunate injury news. But now the Dallas Mavericks, without both Luka and Kyrie, they take on the Memphis Grizzlies tonight, and then second night of a back-to-back tomorrow against the Lakers. Not an easy schedule either for the Mavs to deal with. All right, that's not the only news that we've got for today. Bradley Beal, pretty clear at this point that the Phoenix Suns would like to move on from Bradley Beal. Pretty clear in general. I talked about this earlier this morning on a video that went out about the Suns and how they are now benching Beal. Now, maybe some speculation that that's to get him to waive his no-trade clause and be willing to go to other teams. But right now, the Suns are sitting in the 12th seed in the Western Conference. They are also on a 4-game losing streak. And again, I talked about it a little bit earlier this morning about the situation, why they are moving Bradley Beal as well as Yusuf Nurkic to the bench. And frankly, the fact that this team is very desperate as of this point, the most expensive team in the NBA, and they are desperate to try to figure out a way to find success with this group. But Bradley Beal does possess a no-trade clause. He has revealed, according to John Gambadoro, who is very plugged in the Phoenix market, which teams he would actually waive that no-trade clause for. Here's what Gambo says. As for Beal, the no-trade clause looms large. He could have went to Milwaukee before he headed to Phoenix, but that was turned down. So he didn't want to go to Milwaukee. So he has used the no trade to try to dissuade teams from trading for him or to prevent a trade, period. He's one of only 2 players in the NBA that have a true no trade clause. There's LeBron James and Bradley Beal, and that's it. Have heard he would waive his no trade clause for LA. So that means the Lakers or the Clippers, Miami, and Denver. But I do believe there are a few others that he could ultimately decide work for him. So initially on the list, the Lakers, did they make sense? No. Talked about that over on Lakers Nation. Why they don't make sense as a landing spot. The Clippers, do they make sense? Their whole team, their whole identity, what they are, is built around defense and built around being a very good defensive team. And they already have Norman Powell, who's playing great right now at the 2. You already have James Harden handling the ball. No. Bradley Beal doesn't make any sense there either. What about Denver? We know they are itching to make some changes to their roster, something that'll bump them up in the Western Conference. Did they make sense? No, you've already got Jamal Murray. Russell Westbrook, to his credit, has actually worked out pretty well for them. Doesn't make a lot of sense there in Denver either. He would give them a shooting presence, but the amount of salary you would have to trade away in order to get to Bradley Beal's $50 million contract, you're talking Michael Porter Jr. plus other salaries, logistically, nearly impossible to make that work. You would have to, in all of these scenarios, you'd have to incorporate a third team to take on salary just to try to get a deal done under the confines of the new CBA. And then Miami, I mean, this is the simplest trade because we know the Phoenix Suns want Jimmy Butler. We know Jimmy Butler wants to go to Phoenix, and Bradley Beal would have to be the piece that would go out of Phoenix in order to bring Jimmy Butler there. But why would Miami want Bradley Beal? He'd have to go somewhere else. The Miami Heat, yes, they're trying to win right now, but they already have Tyler Hero. They've already got pieces to fill that role. And even if the Miami Heat are in win now mode, which they are, even if they say post Jimmy, we still want to win, the problem is not just trying to match salary with Bradley Beal. No. The problem is the no trade clause. Because let's say you're the Miami Heat or any other team in the NBA and you trade for Bradley Beal and you think, you know what? It hasn't worked for anybody else, but it's going to work for us. You delude yourself a la Arrested Development to trading for Bradley Beal. $50 million on the books this year, and you go trade for him. All right. Now you've got a no trade, though. What if it doesn't work and you want to try to flip him next year? Well, now you're running into the same problems the Suns have, where Beal can kill his own trade market by invoking that no trade clause. That no trade, just because he waives it to get to Miami or get to LA or Denver or wherever, that doesn't mean it goes away. No, it still exists. So whatever team gets Beal then has to deal with the ramifications of a no trade clause. So while Bradley Beal might be making it known, yeah, I would go to Denver, I would go to LA, I would go to Miami. First of all, I don't think any of those teams want him, nor should they want Bradley Beal. He's a talented player. Let's not kid ourselves. He's a talented player. Is he worth $50 million? No, but he's a talented player. He would help a lot of teams win games, but there are ramifications on your roster. What it would mean for what teams could do flexibility-wise, and then into the future, if it doesn't work, you're stuck. You're stuck because you not only have to find a team that wants Bradley Beal in a trade, but you have to find a team that Bradley Beal wants to go to. That is the truly difficult part of the Bradley Beal situation. So he may be saying, hey, I'll waive it for these 4 teams. And Gambo says there may be some other teams that he would be willing to go to. But are those teams willing to take him? I'll tell you what, I look around the NBA, I have a hard time finding a team that, number one, makes sense as a landing spot for Bradley Beal. And there are a few, right? There are a few where you could go, okay, maybe, Orlando could use some shooting. Could he work there for a team that's been extremely injury prone? Could he give them a little bit of firepower? What about Detroit? Could Detroit get Bradley Beal? They just lost Jaden Ivey due to a broken leg. Can he provide them some veteran play and things of that nature? But then when you factor in, hey, you've got to make a trade work math-wise under the CBA, and he's making $50 million, yikes. That makes it very, very difficult to find a team that would make sense as a landing spot for Bradley Beal, can execute the trade, has the salaries to execute it, and third, is a team that Bradley Beal would waive his no-trade clause for. Now, let me say this. Chicago, I know people want to say, well, do something around Zach LaVine with the Bulls. No, Bulls, no. Don't even think about it. Don't do it. You need to tear this thing down. Don't do it, Chicago. Don't do it. Same goes to you, Brooklyn. The future is bright. Build that future. Don't go add a player like Bradley Beal. Something needs to change in Phoenix, clearly. Something needs to change. Bradley Beal's got his list of teams that he would be willing to be traded to. Maybe there's some other teams. They are moving him to the bench. Maybe that's in part to kind of nudge him towards, hey, let's expand this list a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to be on the bench for a while. So maybe if you expand your list, then we'll find a place for you to go to. But I have a hard time finding a landing spot for Bradley Beal right now. Again, the unfortunate part of this, good player. You don't want to see the value of the contract bleed into the conversation of who he is as a basketball player. The same thing we see happen with Zach LaVine, as well as other players that are in this situation. Brandon Ingram, the same thing, where the contract becomes a problem and it starts to affect the way we see him as a basketball player. a talented player, to be sure. He may name those teams. I just don't see any reason why Denver, the LA teams, or Miami should be interested in Bradley Beal. But everybody give me your thoughts in the comments down below. Should any of those teams be interested in Beal? Where should he land? Or is Phoenix just stuck? Let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe right here to the channel as well. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.